I am back with another video, and today my topic is going to be on the targeting rule and ejection and so forth. And I really want to dig into this topic a little bit because this is kind of a bit controversial, and I think that there needs to be some changes. So let's dive into it right now. Okay, right now you have targeting, and um, if it's approved through the video replay, then a player is ejected. If it's in the first half of the game, they're ejected for the rest of that game. If it's in the second half of that game, they also miss the first half of the next game. And there are different rules here. There is the targeting, where you're hitting a defenseless player, right? There is the targeting with crown of the helmet hit, and there's more of the targeting where it's not necessarily a defensive player, it's not necessarily a crown of the helmet, um, but it kind of plays a little bit of, I guess, a uh, gray area, right? So that's what you get, and no matter what, if it's approved that it's targeting through the video replay, it is an ejection for a player. So we're going to change this up a little bit because I feel like the ejection is maybe a little bit too harsh in most of those cases. So when we have your typical targeting for hitting a defenseless player or whatever, we're going to change that to an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty of targeting. And the way that it works in college football, you have a player can get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties before they are ejected. So we're not going to eject them from the game just because of this targeting. However, if they do another targeting in the game to get another unsportsmanlike conduct, they will then be ejected from the game. And it doesn't even have to be targeting. If it's an unsportsmanlike conduct of something else and they have a targeting mixed in there as well, unsportsmanlike conduct, that's 2 of them, so they get ejected. So that's going to be your scenarios where you eject it, but just from one targeting call of hitting a defenseless player, I don't think that we should really have right away that they are ejected. That play sometimes happens, and it's not necessarily the player's fault. They didn't necessarily mean to go in and make that hit, and sometimes they do, but it's still more gray area. I think just having the ejection is just a bit too harsh. But here's where I'm going to keep the ejection, and this is when using the crown of the helmet. So if it's a targeting with crown of the helmet, the player is physically moving their head downward, right, like this, to make that hit with the crown of the helmet. And that is a very, very big safety issue. That is more of a security issue, of safety issue, than you're hitting a defenseless player, in my opinion. So we are going to have crown of hitting with using the crown of the helmet as an ejection. So in that case, you're still going to get ejected. It's going to be the same thing. If it's in the first half, you're ejected for that. Again, you're able to come back next game. If it's in the second half, then you also miss the first half of the next game. Same thing in targeting with unsportsmanlike conduct. If there's 2 targeting penalties on a player in that game, or if there's just 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and they are ejected in that game, if it's in the first half, they're just ejected for that game. If it's in the second half, they also have to sit out the first half of the next game. But we're changing it to 2. So it would have to be 2 targetings or at least 2 unsportsmanlike conduct type of penalties in order to be ejected. And I think that's just going to be a little bit fairer. And it's still going to keep the whole safety portion for probably the biggest safety concern of using the crown of the helmet. And this is more of a safety thing for the defensive player that is using the crown of their helmet, because that is a very bad way of tackling that used to be used in the olden days. Seriously, coaches taught you screws on the ball. That meant getting your helmet on the ball to try and knock the ball loose. You came in with your helmet, and that's how you hit. That's how you tackled. That's old school. We know that that is not a safe way of doing things. People get injured, they break their necks, break their backs. You have concussions and CTE and all that stuff that we need to get out of the game. So crown of the helmet needs to be an ejection. It just needs to be, and it's going to help to get players to continue to think like, well, I can't do that type of thing, right? It's a big safety issue, and again, like it's the worst for that defensive player because going in that way, you can really do serious damage, even death. So we're keeping that as an ejection. But again, the normal hitting the defensive player targeting rule that you tend to get, that's not going to be an automatic ejection anymore. It's going to be unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So that's how we're going to change this rule. That's how we're going to try and better this rule. And there's probably some other things that need to be tweaked a little bit with this rule, but those are kind of the basics. I want to hear from you down in the comments. What do you think about this idea? And what other ideas do you have with targeting and how we should, change this and make it a little bit more safer, but also maybe forgiving for the player, so they're not automatically just ejected. The worst thing is senior day, last game at home, and you get ejected from the game for a hit that happened. It was kind of defenseless player, but you were kind of in the middle of action, and you didn't really want to do that, obviously, but it just kind of happened. It wasn't like you put your head down and hit with the crown of your helmet, that type of thing. That's the worst when that thing happens to a player. Yes, it's a 15-yard penalty, but that's really, in my opinion, should not be a targeting. So let me know in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this subject as well.